Emily Weber stood at the unmarked grave, watching workers carefully excavate the burial site. Her grandmother Anna had supposedly died here in 1943, buried in the small family cemetery on the old Montana homestead. Emily had hired the restoration company to repair the weathered markers, but the foreman had called her immediately when they found something wrong. "Ma'am, you need to see this." The foreman pointed to the partially exposed skeleton. "We're not experts, but these bones look like they belong to a man, not a woman." Emily felt dizzy. "That's impossible. My grandmother died in childbirth. My grandfather buried her here himself." The county coroner arrived within hours. He examined the remains and confirmed the foreman's assessment. "These are definitely male remains, probably someone in their 30s. I'll need to do forensic analysis, but I'd estimate death occurred around 1942 or 43 based on decomposition and burial methods." Emily stared at the grave, trying to understand. If this wasn't her grandmother, then who was buried here? And where was Anna? The workers continued excavating and found something else. A metal box buried alongside the skeleton. Emily opened it carefully, her hands shaking. Inside were German military documents, brittle with age. A woman's wedding ring with an inscription in German that Emily couldn't read. And a photograph of a young woman in military uniform, standing beside what looked like a radio communications tent. The woman in the photograph looked exactly like the pictures Emily had of her grandmother Anna. Emily examined the documents more closely. They were written in German with official stamps and signatures. One appeared to be a military identification card. The photograph matched the woman in the uniform picture. The name on the card read Oberhelferin Anna Hoffmann. The coroner examined the skeleton more thoroughly and found something that made Emily's investigation even stranger: German military buttons mixed with the bones, and what appeared to be Luftwaffe insignia. This person was a German soldier. Emily's grandfather Joseph had died in 1978 when she was just 10 years old. He had never remarried after Anna's death, always maintaining that his wife died giving birth to Emily's father in 1943. But the timeline made no sense now. If Anna didn't die, who was this German soldier in her grave? Emily spent the rest of the day sorting through the metal box's contents. Besides the documents and ring, there was a small notebook with entries in German, a military medal, and a letter addressed to Anna Hoffmann from someone named Werner. The county coroner promised to run dental records and try to identify the remains. Emily took the documents home, knowing she needed help understanding what they meant. Her grandmother had supposedly been a simple farmer's wife from Pennsylvania. But the photograph showed a woman in German military uniform, and the documents suggested Anna Weber and Anna Hoffmann were the same person. Emily called Dr. Friedrich Holtz at Montana State University the next morning. She had read about his expertise in German military history. If anyone could explain these documents, it would be him. Dr. Friedrich Holtz examined the photograph and documents in his university office with growing fascination. He adjusted his reading glasses and studied the uniform details carefully. "This is authentic," he said finally. "Your grandmother, or whoever this woman is, was an Oberhelferin in the Nachrichtenhelferinnen, German military communications auxiliaries." Emily leaned forward. "What does that mean?" Friedrich explained that as Germany mobilized for total war, women were recruited into auxiliary services to free men for combat. The Nachrichtenhelferinnen operated radio equipment, cipher machines, and communication systems. They were not officially soldiers, but they wore uniforms and served in military units. This identification card says Anna Hoffmann was a signals specialist. Friedrich continued reading the documents. She was captured by American forces in North Africa in November 1942, but this is where it gets strange. American POW records show no female German prisoners held in the United States during the war. "Why not?" Emily asked. Friedrich pulled up military databases on his computer. Geneva Convention protocols required that women POWs be held separately from men and repatriated quickly through neutral countries. The United States and Britain agreed that any German women captured would be sent to Britain for processing and eventual repatriation. None should have been brought to America. But clearly Anna was brought here, Emily said, pointing to the documents. Friedrich spent the next hour searching classified records that had been declassified over the decades. He found something buried in OSS intelligence files. A reference to 12 German women captured in North Africa who were classified as special intelligence assets rather than regular POWs. They were brought to America secretly, Friedrich explained, his voice quiet. Women with technical knowledge about German military systems. Communications specialists, code operators, women who knew things American intelligence wanted. Their presence was hidden from Red Cross inspectors. Emily felt sick. They kidnapped German women and hid them? Essentially, yes. Friedrich continued searching and found more details. The women were held at a classified facility in Montana from December 1942 until March 1943. After that, all records end. No repatriation documents, no transfer papers, nothing. It's like they vanished. Friedrich examined the military buttons and insignia Emily had brought from the grave. These are Luftwaffe, he said. German Air Force. He took photographs and cross-referenced them with databases. Within an hour he had an identification. The remains are probably Hauptmann Werner Steiner, a bomber pilot. He was reported shot down over Montana in October 1942 during what records claim was a long-range reconnaissance mission. Those missions were rare but happened occasionally. Steiner was listed as killed in action. Emily looked at the letter addressed to Anna Hoffman from Werner. So Werner and Anna knew each other? Friedrich read the letter, translating from German. It's a love letter dated December 1942. Werner writes about hoping to see Anna again after the war, about missing her, about believing they will survive this. He signs it forever yours. Emily tried to piece it together. A German communications specialist and a German pilot, both supposedly dead in 1942, both connected to her grandmother who supposedly died in 1943. And her grandfather Joseph worked as a translator during the war. Where did your grandfather work? Friedrich asked. Emily didn't know. Joseph never talked about his war service. But she knew someone who might have information. Her father's cousin Margaret, who still had family documents. Emily drove to Great Falls to meet with Margaret Collins, whose father had been Colonel James Hartford. Margaret was 78 and welcomed Emily into her home filled with military memorabilia. When Emily explained what she had found, Margaret went pale. I always wondered if someone would come asking about that place, Margaret said quietly. My father made me promise never to speak about it, but he's been dead 20 years. Maybe it's time. Margaret retrieved a box from her attic containing her father's personal papers. He was ordered to destroy everything related to Camp Rimrock, but he kept copies. He said someone needed to know the truth someday. Camp Rimrock was a classified interrogation facility in the Montana mountains, operational from 1942 to 1943. Officially it was listed as a forestry conservation camp, but actually it held high-value German prisoners. Scientists, engineers, communications specialists. People who knew things American intelligence wanted. Emily found a personnel roster. Anna Hoffman was listed as prisoner 17, specialty German military communications and cipher systems. Werner Steiner appeared as a prisoner from October to December 1942, then his status changed to deceased, burial local. Margaret showed Emily her father's journal. He documented daily operations and his growing concerns. An entry from January 1943 read, "The interrogation methods here violate Geneva Convention and basic human decency. Major Kruger's techniques are torture by any definition. I have reported this through proper channels but been ordered to stand down." Another entry mentioned Anna specifically. The German woman is remarkably resilient. Despite Kruger's methods, she refuses to provide the cipher keys we need. She maintains that as a woman she is entitled to immediate repatriation and should not be subjected to military interrogation. She is correct, but my orders supersede Geneva protocols. I am ashamed. Emily found references to Joseph Weber in the journal. One of my translators, a young man named Weber, has developed sympathy for the prisoners. I have warned him about fraternization, but I understand his conflict. These are human beings, not just intelligence sources. Margaret explained that her father became increasingly disturbed by what was happening at Camp Rimrock. The commanding officer, Major Richard Kruger, was using brutal interrogation techniques that Hartford believed constituted torture. Hartford reported his concerns, but was told that intelligence needs outweighed legal niceties. What happened to the camp? Emily asked. Margaret showed her a journal entry from March 1943. Camp Rimrock is being shut down immediately. Orders came from Washington. All prisoners to be dispersed to other facilities, all personnel reassigned, all records destroyed. I am being transferred to Texas. I suspect this closure is related to recent events I am not permitted to discuss. But I fear justice will not be done for crimes committed here. Emily found the personnel file for Joseph Weber. He had worked as a civilian translator and guard at Camp Rimrock from December 1942 through March 1943. His security clearance listed him as fluent in German, reliable, and cleared for classified work. 1 month after the camp closed, Joseph married Anna Weber in a small ceremony in Montana. Emily had always been told her grandmother was from Pennsylvania, a distant cousin Joseph met through family connections. But the timing now seemed impossible to ignore. Joseph had worked at Camp Rimrock, where Anna Hoffman was held prisoner. 1 month after the camp closed, he married someone named Anna. Emily contacted other descendants of Camp Rimrock personnel, searching for anyone who remembered details about the facility. Most families knew nothing, the secrets buried with their relatives. Then she found Helen Schmidt in Oregon, 82 years old, who had been a nurse at the camp. Helen agreed to speak after 60 years of silence. "I signed papers saying I would never discuss what I saw," she explained over the phone. "But everyone involved is dead now, and I think the truth matters more than old secrecy orders." They met at Helen's home in Portland. Helen brought out a box of personal items from her time at Camp Rimrock, including a small journal she had kept despite regulations forbidding personal documentation. "The camp was hidden in the mountains," Helen began. "About 30 prisoners at any time, all Germans with technical knowledge. The conditions were harsh. Prisoners were kept isolated from each other, interrogated for hours, denied medical treatment as punishment for refusing to cooperate." Helen opened her journal to entries from early 1943. "I remember Anna Hoffman clearly. She was the only woman prisoner. Major Kruger was obsessed with breaking her because she consistently refused to give up the cipher information he wanted. He took her resistance as a personal insult." "What kind of information did they want?" Emily asked. Helen explained that Anna had operated German military cipher machines and new encryption protocols. American codebreakers were struggling with certain German codes in 1942. Anna's knowledge could have given them significant advantages. "But she wouldn't cooperate?" Emily asked. Helen shook her head. She said she was bound by her oath as a German soldier. She told Kruger that as a woman and non-combatant auxiliary, she was entitled to repatriation under Geneva Convention. She was right legally, but Kruger didn't care about legality. He cared about results. Helen's journal documented multiple instances of Anna being injured during interrogations. The entries were clinical but damning. January 23, treated subject Hoffman for bruised ribs. She claims she fell. February 4, treated subject Hoffman for facial contusions. She claims she walked into a door. February 19, treated subject Hoffman for possible broken fingers. She claims she caught them in equipment. "You didn't believe her explanations," Emily said. "Of course not." Helen's voice was bitter. "Those were beating injuries, but I couldn't report it because the beatings were part of the interrogation protocol. Major Kruger had authorization from intelligence agencies above military command." Helen also remembered Joseph Weber. He was young, maybe 25, idealistic. He argued with Kruger constantly about prisoner treatment. "I heard him tell Kruger once that what they were doing was no different from what Nazis did, and Americans should be better than that." Kruger threatened him with court-martial. Helen turned to an entry dated March 14, 1943. "This is the night Anna Hoffman disappeared. Kruger ordered me to sedate her for transport. He said she was being moved to another facility. But I overheard Weber and Kruger arguing that night. Weber said, 'You can't do this, she's protected under Geneva Convention.' Kruger responded that she was a spy who knew too much to be released or repatriated. He said she disappears tonight." Emily felt cold understanding. Kruger was going to kill her. Helen nodded. "I believe so." But the next morning, Anna was reported dead, killed during an escape attempt. Her body was supposedly buried on camp grounds. Weber was transferred immediately to another assignment. The camp closed 2 weeks later. "Did you ever see my grandmother again?" Emily asked. Helen smiled slightly. "Once, September 1943 in town, I saw a pregnant woman at the general store. It was Anna Hoffman, I'm certain. She saw me too. We stared at each other. Then she smiled, and I nodded. Neither of us said anything. She had survived somehow, and I wasn't going to expose her." Emily obtained her grandfather Joseph's military service records through a Freedom of Information Act request. The documents confirmed he had worked at Camp Rimrock as a civilian translator from December 1942 through March 1943. His personnel file noted fluency in German, learned from immigrant grandparents, and security clearance for classified intelligence work. Friedrich Holtz helped Emily understand why Anna Hoffman had been so valuable. As an Oberhelferin in signals intelligence, she had direct access to German military cipher systems. In 1942, American codebreakers were making progress on German codes, but still struggled with certain Wehrmacht field encryption methods used in North Africa. Anna operated cipher machines, Friedrich explained. She knew daily key settings, encryption protocols, and communication procedures. That knowledge was gold to American intelligence. But as a woman and non-combatant auxiliary, she was legally entitled to different treatment than male POWs. Bringing her to America and subjecting her to military interrogation violated international law. Emily found Anna's interrogation reports in the documents from Camp Rimrock. They documented months of questioning, initially cooperative but becoming increasingly resistant. An early report from December 1942 noted, Subject Hoffman provided basic information about German military communication procedures. She confirms use of Enigma machines in field units, but refuses to provide specific operational details. By January 1943, the reports showed frustration. Subject Hoffman maintains she is bound by oath as German soldier and cannot betray her country's secrets. She cites Geneva Convention protections for women POWs and demands repatriation through neutral channels. Subject shows remarkable psychological resilience despite enhanced interrogation protocols. Enhanced interrogation was intelligence language for torture. Emily found medical reports confirming injuries consistent with physical abuse, contusions, fractures, evidence of stress positions, and sleep deprivation. A report from February 1943 recommended a different approach. Subject Hoffman has proven resistant to standard interrogation methods. Recommend establishing rapport through friendly contact. Translator Weber has developed communication with subject during English practice sessions. Suggest using Weber to extract information through relationship building rather than coercion. Emily understood now. Her grandfather had been ordered to befriend Anna as an interrogation tactic, but something had happened that intelligence officers hadn't anticipated. Joseph had genuinely fallen in love with the woman he was supposed to manipulate. She found Joseph's reports to his supervisors documenting conversations with Anna. The early reports were professional. Subject discussed her background. University student, in Berlin studying mathematics. Joined Wehrmacht auxiliaries in 1941 to avoid factory conscription. No strong Nazi ideology. Describes herself as apolitical. Family in Berlin, parents and younger sister. Later reports show Joseph's growing sympathy. Subject expresses homesickness and fear. She asks about repatriation timeline. She maintains she joined military service only because women were being conscripted. She states she never wanted to be part of the war. She seems genuine in her desire to simply survive and return home. The final report Joseph filed was dated March 10, 1943. Subject: Hoffman continues to refuse providing cipher key information. She states she will not betray her oath regardless of consequences. I have attempted to explain that cooperation could lead to better treatment and eventual repatriation. She responds that some things matter more than personal comfort. I find myself respecting her principles even as I am tasked with breaking them. 4 days later, Anna Hoffman was reported dead during an escape attempt. Joseph Weber was immediately transferred to a logistics position in Idaho. Camp Rimrock was closed by the end of March. Emily realized the official story made no sense. If Anna had died escaping, where was her body? Why was Werner Steiner buried in her supposed grave on the Weber family property? And how did Joseph end up married to a woman named Anna just 1 month later? Emily found more evidence in Margaret Collins's collection of her father's papers. Colonel Hartford's journal entries from March 1943 documented the chaotic final days of Camp Rimrock. The entry from March 15 read, "Prisoner Hoffman disappeared last night. Major Kruger claims she attempted escape and was shot by guards. Her body was supposedly buried on camp grounds. But I have questions. No guards reported shooting an escaping prisoner. No body has been shown to me. Kruger is being evasive about details." The next entry, March 17. Weber is also missing. He failed to report for duty this morning. Kruger claims Weber helped Hoffman escape and has deserted. But I noticed Weber arguing with Kruger 2 nights ago. I fear something worse than escape has occurred here. Then came the entry that changed everything. Werner Steiner's body has been discovered. Workers repairing the perimeter fence found a grave that had been recently disturbed. Steiner died in December during what Kruger reported as an escape attempt. But the medical examiner I brought in says Steiner was executed, shot in the back of the head at close range. This was murder, not escape prevention. Hartford had demanded a formal investigation. Instead, he was relieved of command within 48 hours and transferred to Texas. His journal entry from March 25. I have been ordered to cease all inquiries regarding Camp Rimrock operations. I am being transferred immediately. All personnel are being reassigned and required to sign non-disclosure agreements. I am told that discussing anything related to Camp Rimrock will result in court-martial. Someone is covering up what happened here. Emily contacted the National Archives and requested any investigation reports related to Camp Rimrock. She received heavily redacted documents showing that an Army investigation had indeed occurred in April 1943. The summary she could read stated, "Investigation into deaths at classified facility revealed unauthorized interrogation protocols and possible Geneva Convention violations. Recommend reassignment of personnel and facility closure. Further details classified." Friedrich helped Emily obtain German military records about Werner Steiner. He had been a Luftwaffe bomber pilot flying long-range reconnaissance missions. In October 1942, his aircraft developed engine problems over Montana and he was forced to land. He was captured by local authorities and transferred to Camp Rimrock. Werner's German military file contained letters he had written to family before his capture. In one letter dated September 1942, he mentioned Anna. "I met the most remarkable woman. She operates communications at headquarters. She is intelligent and kind, and does not believe in this war any more than I do. When this is over, if we both survive, I hope to see her again." Emily realized Werner and Anna had known each other in North Africa before both were captured. They had been in love. Werner was brought to Camp Rimrock in October 1942. Anna arrived in December. They were reunited as prisoners in an American interrogation facility. Helen Schmidt's journal had an entry about this. December 19, 42, new prisoner arrived. Woman, signal specialist. I saw her react when she saw one of the male prisoners through the fence. Recognition and emotion. Later learned the man was Werner Steiner. Kruger noticed the connection too. I fear he will use it against both of them. Emily understood the full picture now. Kruger had used Anna and Werner's relationship as leverage. He had threatened one to break the other. When that failed, he had killed Werner in December and told Anna it was her fault for not cooperating. Then when Anna still refused to provide cipher information, Kruger had planned to kill her too. But Joseph Weber had intervened somehow. He had saved Anna's life and helped her disappear. Emily searched her grandfather's belongings more thoroughly and found a safe deposit box key hidden in an old toolbox. The bank records showed the box had been opened regularly until Joseph's death in 1978, but never accessed since. Emily used her authority as executor of the estate to open it. Inside were letters Joseph had written but never sent, documenting what happened in March 1943. The letters were addressed to no one, simply titled "The Truth," and dated over several decades. Joseph had been recording his confession, updating it as years passed. The first letter was dated March 1943. "I have done something that will likely cost me my freedom if discovered, but I could not live with myself if I had done nothing. Major Kruger planned to kill Anna Hoffman tonight. He told me directly, said she knew too much to be released but had not provided enough intelligence to justify keeping her alive. He intended to shoot her and bury her on campgrounds, reporting it as an escape attempt gone wrong." Joseph's letter described his desperate plan. He knew Werner Steiner had been murdered in December and buried in a shallow grave on campgrounds. Kruger had covered it up, claiming Steiner died during an escape attempt. Joseph decided to use Steiner's body to create evidence of Anna's supposed death. On the night of March 14, Joseph exhumed Werner's body and moved it to the Weber family property, where his parents had a small farm 5 miles from Camp Rimrock. He reburied Werner in what would appear to be a fresh grave. Then he helped Anna escape from the camp, hiding her in his parents' barn. The next morning, Joseph reported that Anna Hoffman had attempted escape during the night and been shot by guards. He said he had buried her body on his family's property to avoid publicity that might expose the camp's existence. Kruger was furious, but could not contradict the story without admitting he had planned to murder Anna himself. Joseph's letter continued. "Kruger suspects I helped her escape, but he cannot prove it without exposing his own crimes. The camp is being closed immediately, all personnel reassigned, all records destroyed. I am being transferred to Idaho. But Anna is alive and hidden, that is all that matters." Another letter dated April 1943 described the next phase. "I have married Anna under her true name. We claim she is a distant cousin from Pennsylvania, a German-American woman from a farming family. My parents have agreed to support this story. They met Anna and believe she deserves a chance to live. We will stay on the farm, isolated from anyone who might recognize her from Camp Rimrock. It is not the life either of us imagined, but it is life, and that is enough." A letter from 1950 revealed Joseph's ongoing fear. "I received word that Major Kruger visited the farm last year, claiming to investigate routine matters. He questioned Anna, trying to catch her in lies about her supposed Pennsylvania background. She maintained the deception perfectly. But I know Kruger suspects the truth. He cannot prove Anna Weber is Anna Hoffman, but he watches us. We must remain vigilant. The final letter was dated 1977, 1 year before Joseph died. Anna is ill, cancer. The doctors say she has months, perhaps a year. She has asked me to destroy all evidence of her true identity after she dies. She wants to be remembered only as Anna Weber, farmer's wife and mother. She says exposing the truth would accomplish nothing except bringing pain to our son and attention to people who helped us. I will honor her wish. But I am writing this account so that someday someone will know the truth. Anna Hoffman was a brave woman who endured torture rather than betray her principles. She deserved better than what happened to her. Emily tracked down Major Richard Kruger's military records to understand who had nearly killed her grandmother. Kruger had joined Army intelligence in 1941 and was assigned to interrogation operations by 1942. His personnel file showed rapid advancement and commendations for extracting valuable intelligence from resistant subjects. Friedrich found a classified Army investigation report from April 1943 that had been partially declassified. The report confirmed Hartford's suspicions. Major Kruger had been running unauthorized interrogation operations at Camp Rimrock that included physical abuse, psychological torture, and at least 4 prisoner deaths. The report detailed: Hauptmann Werner Steiner died December 1942, officially listed as killed during escape attempt, but autopsy shows execution-style gunshot wound. Oberleutnant Franz Müller died January 1943, officially listed as suicide, but evidence suggests coerced. Lieutenant Hans Schmidt died February 1943, officially listed as heart failure, but medical records show signs of severe beating prior to death. Unteroffizier Karl Bauer died March 1943, officially listed as accident, but circumstances suspicious. The report recommended Kruger be court-martialed for violations of Geneva Convention and Military Justice Code. Instead, the final page showed, recommendation overruled by Office of Strategic Services. Subject: Kruger's intelligence work deemed too valuable to interrupt with prosecution. Recommend reassignment to European theater and continuation of enhanced interrogation protocols with better oversight. Classification level increased to prevent public disclosure. Emily felt sick. Kruger had murdered prisoners and faced no consequences. Instead, he was promoted and given more authority. Friedrich traced Kruger's later career. He worked in intelligence operations in Europe from 1943 through 1945, then continued in occupation intelligence through 1948. His file showed multiple commendations for successful interrogations and intelligence gathering. He retired as a colonel in 1965 with full honors. Emily found an obituary. Richard Kruger, age 87, died in 1998 in Virginia, survived by 3 children and 7 grandchildren. Decorated veteran who served in military intelligence during World War II and the early Cold War, Memorial Service Private. The obituary made no mention of Camp Rimrock or the prisoners who died under his command. Kruger had lived a 6-long life, respected and honored, while the people he tortured and murdered were forgotten. Emily also found FBI files showing that Kruger had not forgotten about Anna. In June 1943, Kruger visited the Weber farm, claiming to conduct routine security follow-up. He questioned Joseph and met Anna, who Joseph introduced as his wife. Kruger's report stated, subject matches physical description of prisoner Anna Hoffman, but claims to be Anna Mueller from Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Subject speaks English with slight accent, consistent with Pennsylvania German dialect. Unable to definitively prove subject is former prisoner, but timing and circumstances highly suspicious. Recommend continued surveillance of Weber family. The surveillance continued for months. FBI reports documented Kruger's obsession with proving Anna Weber was actually Anna Hoffman. But he could find no concrete evidence. Anna's Pennsylvania German background was plausible. Joseph's parents confirmed she was a distant cousin. The marriage appeared legitimate. By December 1943, Kruger was deployed to Europe and the surveillance ended. FBI notes stated, unable to prove subject Anna Weber is escaped prisoner Anna Hoffman. Case closed due to subject Kruger's reassignment and lack of evidence. No further action recommended. Emily realized her grandmother had lived for 35 years under the constant threat of exposure. Every visitor to the farm was a potential danger. Every interaction outside the family carried risk. Anna had survived Kruger's torture only to spend decades in a different kind of prison, trapped in a false identity, unable to ever fully relax or be herself. Emily found her grandmother's diary hidden in the farmhouse attic, tucked between rafters, wrapped in oilcloth. The diary was written entirely in German, spanning from 1943 to 1978. Friedrich helped translate the entries that revealed Anna's psychological struggle with living a double life. The first entry was dated April 1943, just days after Anna married Joseph. I am alive because Joseph risked everything to save me, but I am not truly living. I am Anna Hoffman pretending to be Anna Weber. I speak English when I want to speak German. I claim a Pennsylvania childhood I never had. I am grateful to be alive, but I am not free. I am hiding in plain sight. Entries from 1944 showed Anna's fear as she became pregnant, a child. Joseph and I will have a child. I am happy and terrified. What will I tell this child about their mother? How can I explain that their grandfather died in Berlin, their aunt survived in Germany, their mother's past is fiction? This child will know me only as Anna Weber. Anna Hoffman will remain buried forever. Anna had tried twice to contact her family in Germany through Red Cross Missing Persons Services. Both times she withdrew the inquiry at the last moment, fearing it would expose her true identity. An entry from 1950 read, I learned today that my parents were killed in the bombing of Berlin in 1945. They died believing I died in 1942 as a prisoner in America. I could have written to them, but I was too afraid. Now they are gone and I can never tell them I survived. Another entry from 1958, my sister Elizabeth is alive. I found her name in a Red Cross registry of Berlin survivors. She married and has 2 children. She lives just an ocean away, but I can never contact her. She thinks I died 36 years ago. If I reveal myself now, I risk exposing Joseph and everyone who helped me. So I remain dead to my own sister. The diary revealed that Anna never left the farm, except for essential trips to town. She homeschooled Emily's father, rather than sending him to public school, where teachers might ask questions about family background. She learned to drive but never got a license, because it would require documentation she could not provide. An entry from 1962, my son asks about my family, about his grandparents and aunts and uncles. I tell him they all died during the war in Pennsylvania. He accepts this because children accept what their parents tell them. But I hate lying to him. Every lie builds the prison I live in. Every false story makes Anna Weber more real and Anna Hoffman more forgotten. Anna wrote about the constant anxiety. Every knock on the door might be someone who recognizes me. Every stranger in town might be an investigator. Every question about my past requires a rehearsed answer. Joseph says I am safe, that enough time has passed that no one is looking anymore. But I cannot forget that I am a German prisoner living under a stolen identity. Some fears never fade. The diary also revealed Anna's love for Joseph. He saved my life and then he built a life with me. He could have found someone without complications, without secrets, without constant fear. But he chose me. He protects me every day by maintaining the fiction of Anna Weber. His love is the only freedom I have. The final entries from 1978, as Anna was dying of cancer, were heartbreaking. I have lived 35 years as Anna Weber, but lying in bed dying, I think about Anna Hoffman, the girl who studied mathematics in Berlin, the woman who refused to betray her principles even under torture, the prisoner who survived because one man showed her humanity. I was both women. I am both women. Joseph says I should tell no one the truth after I die. He is probably right. But I hope someday someone will know that Anna Hoffman did not die in 1942. She lived a good life under a different name. Emily discovered that Joseph had carefully documented his plan to save Anna through detailed notes he kept locked in his safe. The notes showed meticulous planning that began in early March 1943, when Joseph learned of Kruger's intention to kill Anna. Joseph had written, Kruger told me directly tonight that Hoffman will be eliminated within the week. He says she has provided insufficient intelligence to justify continued detention, but knows too much about Camp Rimrock operations to be released or repatriated. He plans to shoot her and report it as an escape attempt. I cannot allow this to happen. Joseph's plan had multiple stages. First, he needed a body to substitute for Anna. Werner Steiner had been murdered in December and buried on campgrounds. Joseph knew where the grave was located because he had been ordered to help dig it. He decided to exhume Werner's body and use it to fake Anna's death. Second, Joseph needed to create a plausible explanation for why Anna's body would be buried on his family's property rather than on campgrounds. He wrote, I will claim I discovered Hoffman attempting escape, shot her as required, but chose to bury her on my family's land to avoid attracting attention to Camp Rimrock's location. Kruger wants secrecy about the camp, so he will accept this story rather than risk publicity. Third, Joseph needed to hide Anna until the camp closed and personnel dispersed. His parents' farm provided the perfect location. They were elderly, isolated, and sympathetic to Joseph's explanation that Anna was a German woman who faced unjust treatment. The notes documented the execution of the plan on March 14, 1943. Joseph waited until late evening when guard rotations left a gap in surveillance. He used his translator access to reach Anna's detention area and helped her escape through a maintenance tunnel. He took her to his parents' farm and hid her in the barn. Then Joseph returned to camp, exhumed Werner's body, and transported it to the Weber property. He created a shallow grave that would appear fresh and reburied Werner. The next morning he reported that Anna had attempted escape, he had shot her, and he had buried her on his family's land. Joseph's notes showed his anxiety about whether the deception would work. Kruger is suspicious, but he cannot contradict my story without admitting he planned to murder Hoffman himself. Colonel Hartford is too distracted by the camp closure to investigate thoroughly. The other guards are being transferred and want no complications. I think the deception will hold, but I must remain vigilant. Emily found evidence that Kruger had indeed investigated. In June 1943, Kruger came to the Weber farm unannounced. Joseph's notes documented the encounter. Kruger questioned Anna extensively, trying to trap her in inconsistencies about her supposed Pennsylvania background. Anna maintained her composure perfectly, answering every question with the story we rehearsed. She spoke with a Pennsylvania German accent, mentioned details about Harrisburg that I taught her, and acted naturally as my wife. Kruger left frustrated but without proof. Joseph had prepared Anna carefully for such encounters. His notes included pages of information about Pennsylvania German culture, Harrisburg geography, and the fictional Mueller family that Anna supposedly came from. He had even obtained photographs of Pennsylvania farmland to help Anna visualize the places she claimed to remember. The notes also showed Joseph's guilt. I forced Anna into this deception to save her life. But the deception requires her to abandon her identity completely. She can never speak German outside our home, never contact her family, never acknowledge her past. I saved her life but trapped her in a permanent prison of lies. I hope she can forgive me. Emily pieced together how Anna had survived 35 years maintaining her false identity. She interviewed elderly residents of the area who remembered the Weber family. Most described Anna as quiet, private, and devoted to her family. No one suspected she was anything other than what Joseph claimed. Martha Henderson, 91, had lived near the Weber farm. Anna was a wonderful neighbor but very shy. She rarely came to town and almost never attended community events. Joseph explained she had health problems that made socializing difficult. We respected her privacy. That privacy was deliberate and necessary. Anna could not risk extended interactions where someone might notice inconsistencies in her story or recognize her accent as German rather than Pennsylvania German dialect. Emily found school records showing that Anna had homeschooled her son throughout his childhood. The official reason was the distance to the nearest school, but Emily understood the real reason. Anna could not risk teachers asking questions about family history or requiring documentation she could not provide. Anna had never learned to drive, despite living on a remote farm. Joseph handled all transportation. When asked why, Joseph told neighbors that Anna had a fear of driving from a childhood accident. Another lie built on lies. Emily discovered that Anna had tried to maintain some connection to her German identity in secret ways. In the farmhouse attic, Emily found books in German hidden in trunks, journals written in German, and letters written but never sent to her sister in Germany. One letter dated 1961 read, "Dearest Elizabeth, you think I died 20 years ago, but I am alive in America. I married a good man and have a son. I cannot tell you this while I live, because revealing myself would destroy the people who saved me. But after I die, perhaps someone will find this letter and send it to you. Know that I thought of you every day and wished I could tell you I survived." Emily contacted the Red Cross in Germany and requested assistance locating Elizabeth Hoffman. Within weeks, they found her. Elizabeth Hoffman Schneider, 93, living in a care facility in Hamburg. Emily called and explained carefully who she was. Elizabeth was silent for a long moment. "My sister Anna died in 1942 as a prisoner in America. We were told this by the Red Cross after the war ended." Emily explained what she had discovered, sending photographs and documents through email to Elizabeth's caretaker. Elizabeth called back the next day, weeping. "Anna survived. All these years I mourned her, and she was alive. Why did she never contact me?" Emily explained the circumstances, the false identity, the fear of exposure, the need to protect everyone who had helped her. Elizabeth understood but grieved for the decades lost. "I received a letter once," Elizabeth said. 1982, no return address, postmarked from America. It said Anna loved me and thought of me always but could never reveal herself. I thought it was a cruel joke from someone who knew about my sister. Now I understand it was really from her. Emily realized that Anna had sent one communication to her sister near the end of her life, unable to deal without Elizabeth knowing she had survived. It was a small gesture, but meaningful. Elizabeth provided Emily with family photographs showing Anna as a young woman in Berlin before the war. The resemblance to the woman in the German military uniform was unmistakable. Elizabeth also shared stories about their childhood, about Anna's love of mathematics, about her reluctance to join the military auxiliaries but feeling she had no choice. "She was not a Nazi," Elizabeth said firmly. "She was a girl caught in a terrible war who did her duty and suffered for it. But she survived and built a life. That takes courage most people cannot imagine." Emily spent weeks deciding whether to honor her grandmother's wish for continued secrecy or expose a truth that revealed both American war crimes and an extraordinary survival story. She consulted Friedrich Holtz, Helen Schmidt, and her father, whose mother's true identity she had revealed. Her father was shocked but ultimately supportive. "My mother was the most anxious, private person I knew. Now I understand why. She lived in constant fear of exposure. But she loved me and raised me well. Her past doesn't change that." Friedrich argued for disclosure. "Major Kruger murdered prisoners and nearly murdered your grandmother. That truth should not remain buried to protect institutions that enabled him. The historical record should acknowledge both the crimes committed and the courage of those who survived them." Helen Schmidt agreed. "Your grandfather saved a woman's life at enormous personal risk. That deserves recognition. Anna endured torture rather than betray her principles. That deserves honor. Their story should be told." Emily published her findings in the Journal of Military History under the title Camp Rimrock: Illegal Interrogation Operations and the Price of Secrecy. The article documented the facility's violations of Geneva Convention, the deaths of prisoners under suspicious circumstances, and Anna Hoffman's survival through assuming a false identity. The response was significant. The U.S. Army acknowledged that Camp Rimrock had operated outside legal boundaries and issued a formal apology for violations of international law. The Secretary of Defense stated, "We cannot change the past, but we can acknowledge wrongs committed and ensure they are not repeated." Camp Rimrock represents a dark chapter where intelligence needs superseded legal and moral obligations. Germany recognized Anna Hoffman's service and posthumously honored her for enduring interrogation without betraying her country's secrets. The German government issued a statement: "Oberhelferin Hoffmann exemplified courage and principle under circumstances that tested the limits of human endurance. She maintained her integrity despite torture and chose survival over despair. She represents the best of those who served." Emily arranged for Werner Steiner's remains to be repatriated to Germany with military honors. His family, located through German records, held a memorial service in Bavaria where Werner was finally laid to rest 70 years after his death. Anna's grave received a new headstone that acknowledged both identities. Anna Hoffmann Weber, 1921 to 1978. German soldier, American wife, survivor of impossible circumstances. She lived 2 lives with courage and grace. At a memorial service in Montana, Emily read from her grandmother's diary. "I was taught that Germans and Americans were enemies who must destroy each other. Instead, an American man risked everything to save my life because he believed humanity mattered more than nationality. Joseph showed me that the enemy is just a label, but love is real." Elizabeth attended via video link from Germany. Speaking about her sister, Anna disappeared in 1942 and became someone else. She survived by erasing herself and building a new identity. That required more courage than dying would have. She lived in a prison of secrecy, but she also lived with love and purpose. That is the victory. Emily concluded that some people vanish not through death but through transformation, becoming someone else entirely to survive impossible circumstances. Her grandmother had disappeared as Anna Hoffmann and emerged as Anna Weber, living decades as a ghost of her former self, while building a real life with real love. The double life was not deception but survival, and survival itself is heroism. Anna Hoffmann's story proved that sometimes the greatest courage is not in dying for principles, but in living despite them, finding humanity in circumstances designed to destroy it.